Hello there,
and welcome to Midland Earth. This is our first episode of the year because we've been doing a lot of meetings and trying to expand our team so that we can create new content and interesting content and bring new ideas to the team. During these meetings, we've really enjoyed the kind of free-flowing conversation that was happening in these meetings, so we're going to bring that to the channel in the form of episodes that have like 5 or 6 of us talking about specific topics, such as films that mean things to us.
So today's episode is going to be the first of our new mini-series that we're calling Fellaship. So links into the sort of the Lord of the Rings title of the channel. And as Matt mentioned, this is where we're going to get together and have a group discussion about a specific topic. We're going to hope that these have a bit more of a natural flow to it, so that we can then look at discussing the topic, but we're going to go off on tangents, have a bit of a laugh. Hopefully, you know, it'll be something that you guys will enjoy. As Matt's mentioned, this first episode, we're going to be talking about films, TV shows, possibly some games that are going to be generating an emotional response to us, and the reason as to why that happens. So without further ado, let's jump into that and introduce you to some of the new members of the team.
Hi, I'm JJ. I like horror and anime, so I'll try and be the specialist on this. I work in IT, so I've been hooking up all the cool things like chargers and laptops and stuff.
Hello, I'm Mark. I've been invited down to fill a space, but I'm here anyway.
Excellent.
That's the best you're getting out of me.
That's fine.
No one said I have to write my own intro.
Wasn't part of the terms and conditions of sign-up.
No one mentioned this.
Hello there, on brand. I'm Kirk, and I like sort of films and TV shows, comedies, sci-fi, horror, true life sort of stuff like that.
Hi guys, I'm Oliver. I'm a massive Star Wars nerd, a big True Detective fan, you know, murder mysteries, that type of thing. So hopefully my insight on those topics will be good, and I'm happy to be part of the team.
Hi guys, I'm Dave. Pretty much sci-fi nerd. Probably not as nerdy as some of these guys on certain topics, but general all-round sci-fi history, kind of my main aspects. Anime occasionally. That's my bits.
Obviously we're looking at film, TV. I suppose you could even branch into games and whatnot as well. Just anything that's you've really had a strong emotional attachment to. So whether that's negative emotion, sadness, anger, or anything that makes you feel particularly happy. We've all got a thought of something. There's going to be something out there. I know I thought of a few. Mark's got a couple.
Some things
that are similar.
Some things that have just caught you off guard as well. To be fair, so on the way here, I was thinking of things, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that film affected me in a way I didn't think it would."
Such as?
What was I watching the other day? Has anyone ever seen Mitchells versus the Machines?
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
That's a movie film. I forgot how much I enjoyed that film until last night. I put it on again, and I was just like, "This film is meant." Like it's just like you got everything in it. Like it's funny. It's got like emotion in it. It's to do with like family. It's to do with like knowing who you are and stuff. And it's just like I really loved it. And I was like, how much I like this film until I put it on. And I also watched Jurassic Park last night because I knew I was doing this today, so I thought I'd rehash it.
The thing I like about emotion is, even if it's sometimes negative emotion, you find like shows, films and gaming and stuff that you return back to because of those emotions.
Yeah.
So if you've got like a feel good movie that you turn to, you know, if you're having a bad day and you know there's someone in there that you don't really like in a film or a show or something, and you really want to hate on someone, like obviously in a safe way and constructive way, but
is there anything in it that you return to that has negative emotions in it?
Well, yeah, all the time. You know, there's things that like when we build up what we're expecting things to be, and then sometimes they don't hit the mark, and that might upset me or get angry, or you know, adaptations that maybe might not have hit the mark. That was one of the things I was thinking of for emotion, was sometimes like adaptations for films and TV shows from like books and stuff. that you with books and how you think it's going to be, and then how someone directs it to be and stuff like that. I think that's very difficult to do sometimes. So some of my favourite books, I'm a big like Vikings guy. So from like a Netflix show, which one of my favourites is like The Last Kingdom. I don't know if you guys have seen that show.
I've heard of it.
And that's quite popular on Netflix. And seeing how much meat is actually missed. The big one that comes to mind for some people is like Harry Potter and what's missing there.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, all these big franchises and
Game
stuff.
of Thrones, especially.
Game of Thrones,
Oh my God. Yeah.
So I think sometimes how we feel about those is unique to us, but it's good to share emotions with other people. And
I think on that Harry Potter one, specifically the scene that comes to mind for me is from the Goblet of Fire. You all know which one I'm on about now. So in the book, obviously the names come out the hat, come out the goblet, and Harry's is the last one. And Dumbledore, when they go into the side chamber, he calmly goes up to Harry and asks him, "Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?" in a very calm manner, because it shows that Dumbledore knows that Harry hasn't done it, and he trusts the response that he's going to get, even though everybody else in that room isn't going to trust Harry at all. And then in the film,
Gambon.
Gambon running down the stairs, and he grabs Daniel and goes, "Harry, you can put your name in the Goblet of Fire!" And that really wound me up when I first saw that, because you just like, that's not what Dumbledore is. That annoyed me so much, because, and I get it, they recast Richard Harris because he passed away and whatnot, and he was better Dumbledore because he portrayed it the way that Dumbledore on the page comes across to me. So that scene really, really wound me up and sort of ruined the entire film for me. Just the fact that he comes running down the stairs and grabs him and almost assaults him and screams in his face, "Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?"
Goblet of Fire is also the third.
Different director, yeah.
So like you've had this progression of different directional styles. As Chris Columbus obviously did the first two and said, "This is how I want it to be." But very close to the books. Obviously, there's bits you have to keep out. But then, like you say, is because we've lost the original Dumbledore, the actor portrayal changes, and it could also be that that's the direction that the director wanted to take at that moment. It's like wanted it to be this very much confrontational to make Harry distrust Dumbledore in such a way that it then adds to the story in the long bit. But like you say, I agree with you. Is that the whole scene is wrong on that.
Yeah, and that for me, because it's just like, that's not how it's not how you read it on the page, and it's not how you probably see it before you go into the film. Because if you've already read the book, you've got a preconception as to how things are going to go. That's never how I saw it going. And then he comes in and he runs at him and screams in his face, and it's just no, that's just, and it really annoyed me.
Well, it's similar to like when you carry on about things that annoy you. Amazing, we're moving on to annoying bits. Game of Thrones, right? Okay, yeah, but the battle for Winterfell is so wrong. Like the whole tactics, like these are supposed to be the tactical geniuses of the world, and they can't plan an assault. They can't plan the defence at all. Let's go and send our cavalry charging off into the darkness. That's a really clever thing to do. Oh, it looks amazing on the screen. Yeah, great. But the only reason that the main characters survive that fight is because of plot armour. There is no way that Brienne of Tarth, Jaime Lannister should survive that fight. Arya becomes the person that kills the Night King. It just it was poor writing, etc. And that's fine. But it's that genuine thing of the whole up to that season is that they weren't afraid to kill characters. You've got like Caitlyn, sort of like the Red Wedding, etc., and Caitlyn Stark, etc. If you read the books, there's a lot that goes on about it, etc. But she was a major character up to that point. Ned Stark, right? The whole of season 1 was an integral part. And what happens at the very end? They kill him off, etc. There was that threat of we're going to kill characters, and then the Battle of Winterfell happens, and no one dies. No one of importance dies. There is no significant change. Okay, yes, admittedly, Jorah Mormont probably causes towards Dany's psychosis, etc. But he's not one of the main ones. He's there.
It's not someone that I was really that bothered about when they did kill him off. I wasn't like, no.
Yeah, exactly. If they'd have killed off sort of like Bran or Jon Snow.
Oh, if it was Bran, I'd have jumped for joy.
Yeah, okay.
It's such an annoying character.
It's weird because it was like I was like 100% loved Arya at the start, and then just the end, like the last season, I despised her.
Yeah.
Because it was, like you said, plot armor. It was all the time. It was just, Arya's amazing. Arya's great, and it's like, but why? So like, I don't get why they set up Jon Snow to be the hero. He was going to do everything, and then
It's
all of
also
a sudden,
when they're
here's the
going on
one.
the very ending scene, and they're going on. They're all gathered round. They're saying, "Oh, who's going to be the next king? Oh, we need to elect a king that has no ties." And like, there's Genji, who's the illegitimate bastard child of Robert Baratheon, which means that he is a Baratheon, which means he is the rightful heir to the throne. Oh no, we can't have him being elected. Let's elect Bran because he's not going to have kids. Right. Great political system you have there. Well, sorry for ranting on Game of Thrones on that one.
I feel like Game of Thrones is the one that everyone will rant about.
Yeah,
because it's so polarizing, and I feel like they were, because they had, was it Star Wars that they were aiming to be directors of, and they were like, all right, I'm bored of that toy now. Game of Thrones, bye bye. Yeah, just wrap it up, whatever. Just go chat GPT, how to end Game of Thrones, and it just wrote something that went, yeah, sure. So about that Star Wars money.
Which they're now not getting.
Yeah.
Because that Wednesday night.
They were supposed to get a trilogy, really?
Yeah.
Full trilogy, and then that final season of Game of Thrones just... No. So Disney was like, yeah, we'll just shelve that. Shelve this one and shelve that one, and we'll just forget that one because it's been done by a female director and writer and put it over there, and now HBO have gone back to them and given them a prequel series instead.
For
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon was
yeah,
prequel.
But as an outsider to this Game of Thrones, I've never seen a single episode or read a book. But obviously, you do hear things, people talk about it, or it's online, YouTube, whatever. The last series, that's what puts me off watching it, because it was so polarising. You had some people that loved it, and then people that hated it.
Yeah, if you watch up to where the books got, because obviously, like George R. R. Martin is probably never going to write the rest of the continuation of the saga.
He will someday.
He won't. He won't.
But he said so. Like when he said the dragons are coming. Honestly, they're coming.
Yeah. He'll pop his clogs before he writes the last bit to it. So, but when the actual show is following up to where the books have gotten, obviously there's slight changes and they miss bits out, etc. But it follows the narrative that George R. R. Martin wrote, and it's pretty good. And then it is that case of where the show starts to overtake the book, and this happens in most things when you watch like animes or things like that. When the manga or the anime catches up to the manga and they throw in a filler series to pull it back, is like 60% of the audience generally hate it. It's just put in to make this thing of, oh well, we know that we've not got this scene quite written yet, so we know where the story's going to go, but we'll fill this in. And that's how Game of Thrones ends. Is that they just filled in the blanks, and
yeah, I'd gather that.
Who
puts you off watching it as an outsider going. Everyone was disappointed by the sound of it.
Yeah, season 5 it ends. It's like sort of like it ends on a big cliffhanger. That's what you need to kind of really think about. The easiest thing.
I think that with emotion, but when you go to like, we're obviously thinking about like source material, being the subject that we're talking about now, and when you kind of branch from that source material, that's when I think all these like mixed emotions. So how we would feel about a certain subject, because it's left what is like the core or the canon and stuff like that, for a lot of things would lead to happiness for one person but anger for another, and that's why these discussions in a healthy manner that we're going to be having is really important. So
can we have an unhealthy discussion?
Yeah, of course.
Can we just
please?
I'm sure at some point I'm going to rant.
What is the most polar show that we can think of that some of us love and some of us hate, and then we'll just have it as a fun fight?
Well, I think we've gone for Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones as well. I think Breaking Bad's probably one as well, as some people that like.
People not like Breaking Bad?
I think it's massively overrated.
I'm not watching
it could have been done in 3 series instead of 5.
So you telling me about you not liking it that much has put me off watching it over the last few years. It's like, well, Lewis said, it's like, but then again, it might be good, but because you've had a sort of gone a bit negative to it,
sometimes you've got to kind of just go for it yourself and see what your own opinion is. I think a lot of stuff like recently, probably the last 5 or 10 years, it's social media just blasts such polarising views anyways, and if it isn't exactly what someone wants, that was terrible, you know what I mean? And sometimes you have to revisit things. I mean, me and Lewis, we went and saw The Last Jedi together, didn't we? Did we see that? We did, didn't we? I
think we saw Force Awakens and Last Jedi.
And obviously, I was Last Jedi.
I
was the only one that liked it.
Yeah, I didn't
like
like it at all.
Absolutely
did not like it at all.
But I've revisited it again, and it's not as bad as I thought it was. But I think in my head, what I wanted it to be, it didn't match.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to just go back a little bit and go, did I hate it because it wasn't a great film, or did I hate it because it wasn't what the film was I thought it was?
You know, a small child going, "This is amazing, I love it," you know, because the CGI and the effects are good. And then
plus kids love Jar Jar. That's a known fact. Kids love Jar Jar. No one else does, but kids love it.
the Darth Jar Jar are kind of like
It's got to happen, hasn't it?
I
It's
love
got to
that.
happen.
Darth Jar Jar makes so much more sense if he is actually the Sith Lord that's manipulated Palpatine into such an
That'd be a
extent.
plot twist, wouldn't it?
It fills
be
so
so
much
good.
of a gap.
So what I'm hearing is about Phantom Menace. Now that you've kind of looked at it, a film that starts talking about politics, you know, between all of these different parties, is a bad thing. You know,
it's not bad, but it's like
Midi-chlorians.
yeah.
come on.
But the actual sort of like the love of it has waned over time as I kind of like you know you get more into the Star Wars era and you kind of read more about legends and what goes off after.
I love the
It's kind
Legends
of gone like that
canon,
though with the prequels, because there was a time when everyone was
Yeah.
like, no
Yeah.
prequels
The
are
media
rubbish.
outlet, yeah.
Hayden Christensen's a terrible actor, all of this sort of
Yeah.
stuff. And then more recently, people are like, oh, we love it. We
Yeah,
love
the
gotta
it.
get it
reason
back,
being,
you
the
know.
reason being is because we had the sequels.
How bad,
Retrospectively, Mission of great.
how bad Disney treated the sequel
Just
films.
wait for the next.
Just made the
three, and then
prequels
we'll have
better.
these ones again.
I mean, I prefer Jar Jar over Ray. I'd take if they
To
just
be honest,
did
I
them-
agree with you on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because Ray is just such a Mary Sue. I'm like, oh, she's had such a hard life, but she's just got all these abilities, and she's more powerful Jedi than Luke can ever be. I'm like,
Is that why?
read Legends. Read Legends. Luke is a flipping demigod.
He
I'm
pulled
like,
he pulled like
pulls
ships
the
out of the
pulls
sky
stars out of
and
the sky, don't they?
Legends canon. I watched it,
Yeah.
and then Disney just went, no, we're not.
No, we're
Yeah,
removing
that
it from
doesn't
canon.
exist.
Disney failed to realise was, well, we're going to give John Favreau and Dave Filoni a lot more power.
Everything.
And then they've just started sneaking in legend stuff without Disney actually realising it.
There's Pleven as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
That's rumoured.
Heard of it,
The kind of like
It's going to be really good. It's going to be good, I think. You know, just give the people what they want, damn it. Come on, this is it. And
Darth Jar Jar.
And I think, you know, in so many different universes and projects and stuff, a lot of the fanfare and, you know, the belief from the fans when they create individual things that you can find on different media outlets and stuff help the creators of these things, you know, find added bits, you know, because there's so many universes now that keep getting added to. So like how they resurrected Star Wars, as we're talking about now, and they keep adding stuff. You know, we're going to be having some Lord of the Rings stuff added now. You know, whether or not Harry Potter, you know, want to start doing some stuff, you know, and whatever. So yeah, I think it's good, but you know, people are going to have some feelings. People are going to tweet about it.
You have like
You
the
know.
Marvel and the DC bits, don't you? As
All
well,
the
where sort of
time,
like, oh, we're just doing a universe jump. Right? Then DC in the comics, they did the New 52, which is great. I enjoyed the New 52 comics, but at the same time, it gets to that point where they're like, we're running out of ideas, so we're going to reboot this, and we're going to do it.
Just
With DC,
keep
how
it.
many times have they killed Bruce Wayne's parents?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah. Like every universe that they do.
every film, they've
yeah.
just got to add it in there.
Yeah. But they didn't do it properly though. But talking about things that people are like, I actually think Ben Affleck is pretty decent Batman.
I liked him as Batman.
Yeah, he was
Right,
good.
but they introduce Batman and they wanted to set up Batman and Superman and Justice League. Awesome that they want to set it up, but then they didn't do the background story and the origin for it. They're just like, this is Batman. Batman is amazing.
You all know. You know his parents die. You know all this. Don't worry about
but
it.
it doesn't work. You need to have that build up and that origin to actually come to understand the character and then get that appreciation of them. And if you don't, you just sit there and you go, yeah, it's Batman. Which is why people hate it, because they're like, oh, wait, it's just Batman. And they're like,
You need the audience on your
Yeah.
side. Marvel did it right.
Yeah,
I mean, what,
this
was
is
it
it.
3 years before the first Avengers? Every main player
Yeah.
pretty much had
they
their
had
own
their
film.
introduction.
story.
Sort of like you've got the Iron Man build up where it builds up about Tony Stark and his change of persona is that he starts off as an arrogant businessman, and then he has this realization that he is the bad guy, and he works to change against that. You have sort of like Captain America, and it goes from how he transitions from being a nobody to being the people's hero, and that you've got that respect for them. Like you say, by the time they start doing the Avengers, you've already seen the backgrounds behind these characters. Problem with like DC is they went straight into it, which is why Wonder Woman is actually one of the ones that people like. because they built up the Wonder Woman background. You know, they gave us they sold it what happened and how she came to be who she is.
Yeah.
Whereas Batman was just thrown in, and Superman was kind of had a little bit of background but didn't, and then Cyborg and the Flash are just like, here you go.
Yeah,
The story
we're
of-
here as well.
Yeah, he's in the street.
You even got it a little bit to an extent with Spider-Man in the MCU, so you don't actually get the full origin story of how Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man, you know, being bit by a radioactive spider and Uncle Ben dying, but you get that sort of brief line in Civil War where he's saying about how he's got these powers, and then when you don't do things, the bad things happen, and it affects you. So obviously they're playing on the fact that everyone knows that Uncle Ben dies and it affects him, that's what makes him becomes a hero. But they just put it in that line, and because the audience then know what he's referring to, it still gives you that sort of emotional connection to the fact that he's become this reluctant superhero because he wasn't able to save his uncle from the tragedy that happened. Whereas, like you say, with the Batman film, that's Batman. They're just expecting you to know. Well, no, yeah, the audience knows, but
this is what
really emotional attachment
Christian
to it.
Bale's Batman everyone loves because they had that build-up and it was very dark, but it brought you back to that whole realisation of how he transitioned to become the Batman and why he came to be the Batman. So he's got that. You've got that connection to him and say, this is okay, I understand, I resonate with the character, and I understand why he went from being eccentric billionaire to vigilante crime fighter.
So by not putting that in because it was Batman versus Superman, that was his first entry, so do you reckon that's what's drove people to just
they went straight into
Batfleck?
Yeah.
No!
Well, yeah, that's my opinion on it, is because there was no introduction to Ben Affleck as the Batman. It was just straight away, it's Batman versus Superman.
And that's why
This is what they wanted. DC wanted to be like Marvel. They wanted to have the Avengers, and they wanted it there and then.
They
So
rushed
they
it,
jumped. Yeah, they jumped straight into it.
So you think they set him up to fail?
To an extent.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe on a subconscious level, then maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't even like the Flash. I wouldn't say he's that big a character unless you've watched the CW show. So you've watched that Barry Allen move over 9 years, 9 seasons.
But
this Flash, he's just there.
Yeah, but then again, they cast the wrong Flash.
Well, that's a bit questionable, isn't it? That's going down something dark.
How does that make you feel?
Well, I ain't getting dragged into that. There's bullets and babies and things involved.
Right, so I'm going to pull us back to things. We went on a bit tangent. Mine would be the film Her. Has everyone seen it?
No.
The one with the AI girlfriend, played by Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
Yeah. That kind of made me feel something, because I think it was just before I got with my partner, so it's that kind of, go out every weekend, but then you're just kind of alone the rest of the time. So that was my thing. Whenever I was like single, I just watched films constantly. Like, I think from 2000 to 2010, I did have girlfriends over that time, but it was like every waking moment that I wasn't with someone, I just watched films. I watched anything that came out. But it was kind of like how towards the end, when she spoilers, when the AI like leaves and all of the AIs kind of like just disappear. And it's like, that's what real people can do. And he's obviously got this attachment to this AI. And I think it's quite a good kind of explanation and exploration of how we are with technology these days. Like, if you think we're so reliant on like technology, our phones and everything, and it could easily be a reality that we end up having AI partners. But the whole thing because we're only human, and we're most of the time like monogamous, you have like just have one partner. These AIs, they're so advanced, and talking to 300 other people is like nothing to them. They don't understand. We have this kind of like deep-seated thing of, I've got this one person, they are mine, I'm theirs. Whereas AI, it's a robot. It doesn't get that.
Understand the bond, is it?
Yeah, it doesn't understand the bond, or the fact of like, there's people out there that are polyamorous, and to them it's normal to be, like, oh, I've got a group of 10 people and I love all of them. Like, to an AI, it probably makes more sense, but we don't. most people don't think like that. So it's it kind of made me feel something in that. It's like philosophical, thinking about things, and not so much the danger of AI, but like how that could be the future. It's a bit scary. You think like no one wants to be with anyone because you've got someone that's, oh, I can mute her whenever I want or switch her off. And
way of looking at AI in film and TV, because we've always sort of been very focused on AI taking over and destroying us in terms of a species, like Terminator and like Robot and all that sort of thing. Sort of only really now that I suppose that they are looking at it on that other side, where you can become emotionally attached to just the voice.
Well, in Japan, they've got it's quite like a big thing, AI girlfriends. So you know they're usually the forerunners for things, aren't they?
They do an episode of it in the Big Bang Theory where Raj falls in love with his phone when it first like properly introduces Siri as, you know, you talk to it and it'll talk back and you can have like a conversation with it. They do that whole episode where he becomes emotionally attached to his phone.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
It was a bit of a weird one, especially when he had the daydream at the end where he goes to the office and sees the woman that does the voice for Siri, and she walks in and she's effectively just portrayed as being an actual artificial intelligent robot that just turns around and sort of walks like C-3PO towards him, and then he can't actually speak to her because he's in front of an actual woman at that point. But we've all become so used to fearing AI that it's going to nuke the planet and wipe us all out as a species and whatnot, but probably is going to be more of that, where you're going to have people that are a bit more nervous and uncomfortable with that human contact and, you know, building a relationship with a real life partner. It's going to actually feel easier for them to do it with, whether it's just your phone or a voice on a TV screen or something like that, and then internet goes down and boom, that's then ripped away from that person. Yeah. Well, that could be someone's real reaction to it, because it's probably going to, that's probably more likely in the near future of that sort of thing happening, beyond Skynet taking over and destroying the world. That'll be a little bit further down the line. That's how they get you.
Well,
they'll reel you in by playing with your emotions and go, oh, I love you, and blah, this and blah, and that. And it'll be, now we're just going to go on.
Yeah, but they're like, I love you, and instead of, I love you too, be, I love you. It's happened.
I downloaded the wrong Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger comes walking out, he's stroking your hair and whatnot, and telling you how he loves you, and I'll be back, and then just, you know, red eyes and snaps your neck.
Oh, that's a film that affected me actually. Terminator 2. I love that film.
Oh yeah, the end of that is just.
The end of that, God, yeah, when like you're like, oh, like AI can be nice and help and stuff. Like, it's artificial intelligence, isn't it? But it's like trying to protect humanity, not try and kill it.
We felt sorry for him, even though he's not a person, is he?
He learned to care, didn't he?
Especially the extended version where they take his chip out and he can learn emotions.
And he's just that freaky smile.
Well, I don't get why they took that scene out of it, because it makes the most sense. Like if you watch the one that's on Channel 4 or something, and it's not got that scene where they turn the learning part on his CPU on, then the rest of the film where he's learning things and doing the thumbs up and the smile and everything, it doesn't actually make sense. Because how did he learn to do that if they've not done the chip?
And it's such a small scene as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for that to chop it out, really, because it doesn't
do that a lot though. Like they just cut out like the Superman, isn't it? The most recent iteration. There's one scene that's cut out from the Zack Snyder cuts, which adds so much, and he's only about 25 seconds long, and it adds in that whole thing of, it changes the dynamic of the film. Just 25 seconds, and it was cut, and then you're like, what? It doesn't make sense.
Cool. Who else has got one? That's one for the.
I think mine is The Imitation Game. So obviously, I have like a big history about it. So a big history buff is about the breaking of Enigma, which is fantastic, and how we did it. But it's the ending scene that gets me. Is when Turing has been has been found guilty of being homosexual, and he's going through a medical castration, and how it affects him, and how it's basically, without Turing, the war would have gone on for at least 4 years. And it's how the British society at the time saw homosexuality as a sin. And because of how secret and how closely guarded MI5 and MI6 was, After the war, basically, we destroyed all record of MI5, MI6 that happened during the war. So Turing's record was that piece of paper that says he served in the war, or he served at a radio factory, etc. No, couldn't talk about it, and the government didn't come to his defence. But without him, the government couldn't have won the war. And it's just that whole thing of we treated homosexuals so badly in the 1950s, 1960s. And how we've changed to be more accepting now, but we've still not got over it. There's still this reservations, which all started in the Victorian era. Before the Victorians, homosexuality was acceptable.
Well, the Romans.
The Romans,
They were
the Romans and
any
the Greeks.
holds a goal, literally. They'd just do anything.
When the Spartans got married, the women shaved their heads because the men preferred them to look like men.
That just that just reminds me of Meet the Spartans. Like high fives for the women, tongue kisses for the men.
That's true. This is how it's sort of like the whole thing of what we see as modern sexuality is because the Victorians were prudes, and we had 100 years of persecutions, etc. And it's only now we're starting to break that down, but we're still not there. And that affects me as a society as a whole, is that we've still got small isolated pockets of individuals that can't be themselves because society has been built on these foundations, and how we treat them is unfair. That's what gets me on that.
So it's the real life
applications
that affect you.
Yeah.
Because moving on to something sort of related, more real world that affects, and you, because we were talking about this earlier. Blackadder Goes Forth, the last episode.
Oh my goodness! Oh my god! Yeah.
Because you think, Blackadder's died in a couple of series at the end.
He died in the first series. He died in the
played as a sort of joke, isn't it?
That's why this particular scene affects you so much, and why certainly in our school they used it in like the history lesson. One of the things they showed us, I'm guessing probably would be the same for most of you. You've got 5 full episodes of comedy. All right, yeah, they do touch on historical aspects of how the war was playing out and things like that. He pretends to be mad to try and get himself out of the trenches. So all the things that would have been real and people would have done, but there's always that humour and that comedy and what to pull you back. And it keeps going all the way through that final episode, and then there's that one line where it's like the cannons have stopped and everything's like, it's over. The Great War, 1914 to 1917, and that's the moment that you realise, like, these characters aren't getting out alive now. This is it. And that's probably what soldiers on both sides, obviously we're watching Blackadder from the Allied side, but that's what soldiers on both sides probably would have been thinking when that particular moment would have happened. Oh, it's over, we're done, we've survived. No, you're going over instead. And then
the thing is as well is that when you watch is that with the scene is that as they go over the top, within seconds, all of them are down. Yeah. Admittedly, that's probably how it was shot, etc. But that is, like you say, the emotion is there. And you feel that is actually what would have, and it is what would have happened, as that they'd have fired the artillery would have gone off, and then 2 minutes before they'd have stopped the artillery, and everyone would go, okay, right, this is going to happen. And then we would send wave after person over the top, and we'd just let them soak up bullets. And like the joke in Blackadder, oh, how much territory have we claimed? Oh, it's a life-size replica, sir. 42 feet. And like that's a push of how many thousand men did we lose? And it's like you say, it's like raw emotion from it.
And the music plays a big part to it as well.
Yeah, music is a big part.
But it's that real world element. That's what gets you, because then it fades to the poppy field with the sound of birds in the air, and it's like. What was it, 1989? Blackadder Goes Forth?
Yeah,
late 80s.
Around that point, yeah.
So it was in living memory of a lot of people at that time. So that must have hit harder.
Very hard.
Because granddad was there, or great uncle.
Well, yeah.
It's that real life element that gets you. I think that's what makes it worse. Every time Blackadder's died in third and first phase, he plays a joke. But this is the first time in that sort of it's living history at that point.
Yeah, I think living history plays a big part in it because both my granddads served in the Second World War, and neither of them would speak of the Second World War.
Yeah,
neither of them would say what happened, etc.
my cousin's a former Marine, and he will not speak about his time in the Marines because it's like living history and it's the memories of what happened during that conflict, and it's very raw and emotional. And a lot of soldiers don't talk about what actually happened when they were there because it's that memory of repeating what they actually saw, etc.
Yeah.
I guess it's a juxtaposition as well between, like, it's been a comedy program all the way through. They're trying to find ways to get out of being in the war. Aldrich, I've got a cunning plan. They, you know what I mean? But they still go over and stuff like that. And the fact they all go over as well. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
No man's spared.
It's only Melcher that's left.
Well, that's it, isn't it?
He's
Yeah,
the general. He's
that's
obviously
right.
at the back of the thing.
Well, that's Darling's character as well. Is that Darling thought that being the secretary to the general would get him out of the war or get him out going over, and ultimately it didn't.
But that's the thing with, like, creating something that impactful, that then when, you know, actors and actresses do other projects, it's kind of hard for people to kind of move on and see them and not think of them in these certain roles. We were talking on the way here about actors and actresses that we like, but then you immediately go, okay, well, I know this person from this, but then they've done, you know, 5 or 6 other things, and for something that impactful, how much that was good for people and how it wasn't good for people, you then only remember them for that, but they have done all these other
It's
things.
almost like typecasting them in your mind.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. For remembering that they do other things, but I think that's just something that we naturally do sometimes. We put into categories and whatever.
Yeah. From the typecasting thing, that's a good segue into one of my other picks, which was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
That's a brilliant film.
Like Jim Carrey, obviously, he's been in a couple of things that kind of like show a bit of range, but Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is just, I love that film. I don't know if everyone else loves it or like,
Saw it once.
I've watched it many times. That's my sad breakup film. I need to hurt more.
I guess you've got it.
Literally, I watched it for 7 years. But yeah, it's one of those where there's lots of scenes in it that are very like emotional. Like the scene where she goes into his mind and it's like, because he like drags her through his memories, doesn't he? To try and hide her, and he goes in and it's like him as a little boy, and it's like really, it's weird because it makes you think about when you were little, and he's like hiding under things like, oh, why's mom not looking at me, and like, oh, I just want to hug her, and like all this. It's all the little things that you don't think about that kids. That's all kids care about is, you know, like maybe giving you a hug or being with you and stuff, and like now being, you know, over the past 7 years being a dad, it's like quite emotional. Yeah, and I think that whole thing, like I said, with breakups and stuff, it's like, I think probably most people have been with someone and it's like, oh, I just wish I could delete you from my memories, like I hate you now, and it's
we don't know what that's like, do we?
But yeah, it is one of those films that made me feel something. And continues to make me feel things when I watch it again.
Something that you said about, you know, the breakup films. They don't ever seen 500 Days of Summer.
That was my other one, but I didn't want to go into 2 breakup films.
You
want to bring the tone down.
That's what I was thinking of. Oh yeah, you think back in, like, it wasn't as good of a relationship as you thought it was. Like at the end when he sees, like,
I love that
he
ending
was
scene.
more into it than she was, kind of thing, like the whole time.
It's a film that has quite a lot of people talk about that film and film and stuff like that, because he's supposed to be the bad guy, isn't he? He's actually supposed to be the bad guy all the way through. But Joseph, what's his name?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
He was probably not cast right for it because he's too sympathetic in it.
He's just got one of those nice faces.
He has, and you actually feel, you know, that scene. I love that scene where he's Han Solo and all of that. You make my dreams come true. That is like, and it's kind of out of context to the rest of the film. And he's like, yes, he's got with her and that, and then he goes in the elevator and he just looks like the world's on his shoulders and it's not going the way he thought it would do.
That end scene is so good where it shows the expectations versus reality, because I feel like everyone does that. You know, when you're looking forward to something You kind of like build it up in your head of like, oh, I'm gonna go here, like he does. Gonna show up, and she's gonna be like, oh, I'm so happy to see you, and then actually shows up, and she's like, oh, you're all right. Yeah, this is my new boyfriend.
Yeah.
Okay. But also what you said about like watching things differently as a parent and like how films affect you more. I think you said something about watching it with family and stuff, didn't you? Like things affect you a lot more. I like well up and cry at those more things now.
Yeah.
Like since then.
Yeah.
Why are you crying at this?
This is what I was actually going to bring up is Elemental. Right, admittedly it's a kids' film, but it's where I can't remember his name, but where she thinks that he's died. Like every time now, it's now ingrained into me. It's like I just sit and I'm like, because watching it with my daughter the first time, and she was genuinely in tears with that. Moana too, exactly. When we went to see it in the cinema. What happens with Moana towards the end of the film? She was in tears, and then because her emotion was so brutal, I'm just like, it's okay, she'll get better, But you do. Other people's emotions and reactions play on you, and it also builds that memory of it. Now I cannot watch Elemental without getting emotional. I know what's coming. I know that he's going to survive, but deep down I'm like, what happens if he doesn't? It's also expectations. Like Titanic, one of my all-time favourite films. But every time the ship hits the iceberg, there's that one part of me that's like, come on guys, just this once. just this once. Come on.
If I watch it for the 10th time, it won't hit.
If I watch it 1,000 times, it might change. You know, just it might. There's that anticipation. You still know what's going to happen, but because they've built the suspense up and the drama, is you've got that hope. It's like maybe this time something will happen differently. You know how the film's going to end, but still there's that point of hope.
Turn it off then, sort of towards the end.
Oh yeah,
so you're going to have it. Amy does it all the time, so she gets really upset towards the end of Moulin Rouge. So they get to the big sort of song and dance number towards the end, just before she pops the clogs,
and it just ends.
And then she'll just turn it off. Happy ending.
Like feeback.
Because if she watches it through to the end, she's guaranteed that she's going to cry.
Yeah.
So she's just like, oh, big song and dance. Oh, we love each other. Off now.
I've never thought of doing that.
So much nicer.
Because she already knows that emotional connection that she's got to that film and the charisma that he's going to get her. So she's just like, yep, gone.
I don't know if I'd be able to do that. They'd be able to do that. The completionist in me.
Yeah.
It'd be like edging, just like, oh no, I've turned it off now. For God's sake, I'd have to go back and finish it off. And just be like,
Oh,
she's not in the room now. Just
yeah, that's character attachment.
Yeah,
because I know the first character I got attached to and died. It's not the one you're going to think of.
Go on.
It sounds daft, but I was about 7 or 8 when it was on. Victor Meldrew out of One Foot in the Grave.
Yeah.
Okay.
That last episode is horrendous. He has the world's worst day.
I was never going to think of that.
No, but it's still in my mind when it was first broadcast, and it's stuck in my mind ever since because he dies, but he doesn't just die; he gets killed by a motorist, and because apparently my parents didn't care what I watched when I was young, I've watched pretty much all this adult comedy, and then that last episode kicks in, and suddenly it's like.
It's real.
He's dead.
But that last episode as well is he has such a bad day.
Like that's the thing, isn't it? It just gets worse and worse for him.
It is the day from hell for it. Like, he has an absolute horrible day. And you get to that ending as well with Margaret. And Margaret's just like, does she or doesn't she?
Yeah, because she finds out basically who was driving the car into Victor. And she has the choice of whether to spike this woman's drink or not, and it's up in the air.
Yeah,
she just so it ends with her walking out the house, humming a tune off. She gets in the car and drives off. So it's up to the viewer. Did she kill? Did she drug this drink, or did she go no?
There's some deep stuff for a kid.
It is real. I judge my parents highly. But that death just lingered with me because of the way I still remember the hand falling into the puddle.
Yeah,
and then the flat cap because it's pissing down as well because it always does when it's bad. And the flat cap going down the street. But as a kid, that has stuck with me for all these years.
I can see why that would.
Yeah. Because the other death that stuck with me, which you will know, because I will go on about it to the day I die, is Mandy Maguire out of Shameless. That I don't know why. I think it's. I like the character and I like the actress because I thought they were both good, and I think it's the way she died again. It sticks with you, and that's more an annoyance because it's like obviously she wanted to leave, the actress, I imagine. So they're like, right, we'll give you a big send off, but the way she died in a house explosion and leaving a kid in a dark comedy drama, people just and they have a comedy funeral at the end. No, I was still stuck on that, and it's still stuck with me. That death going, it's more annoyance. That death is like, yeah, it's a big exit, and everyone sort of remembers it, but it's like,
you'd done it differently then maybe.
I wanted to give a happy ending, really. If it was up to me, she would have gone off and into the sun and had a nice time. Instead, you get that dramatic ending, which is probably better for an actor because it stays in your memory.
We don't know if the writers were pissed off at her for leaving. Like,
Well,
can I have a nice death? No, because you're leaving.
But
They'd blow you off.
Then it's undone a couple of series later when she comes back as a ghost.
They must have given up at that point.
It's fine. They'll just do the Dallas effect, where it's just sort of like it was all a dream.
I must have given up by that point. I don't remember.
I think a lot of people have given up by that point. It's like, and she was a
Seasons,
pregnant
was it? Like
ghost.
7?
Oh no, it went to like 12, I think.
Whoa.
11, 12.
Maybe I only watched to 7.
It did
Come on,
have,
you completionist, get there.
it did have a long run. It's one of those
Some
ones
would
that
say
probably
too
went on
long.
too long.
Yeah.
But again, it's you get attached to certain characters or actors,
Yeah.
and it just when something bad happens to someone you like, you think bastards, and it sticks with you in any genre. So we talk about something happy rather than mass death and breakups.
I think that's it.
I mean, if you want to go on about deaths, we can go into Scrubs and other things as well if you wanted to. But
Yeah,
if you
because
want,
I know which one you're going to bring
How I
up.
Met Your Mother.
no, it just disappointed me completely. I was just like that.
But like, yeah, up until the last season, etc. Yes, but the scene with How I Met Your Mother, where Marshall's dad dies, and if you actually watch it back, you the second time, and all the way through is it counts down, so it gets to 1, and then Lily tells him that his dad's died, and it's just like the build up of that entire episode just comes crashing down in one moment, and you genuinely feel your heart kind of jump up into your throat, and you're like, oh my god, this is really emotional because of how they built it up.
And especially because of like the arcs that they have in that show, where that whole season you kind of see that he went home and you'd seen his brothers and that Lily and his mum not really getting on very well, and then you kind of see them at the start, like they're doing like a project or something, aren't they, together? And then, to be fair, the first time when I found out about the countdown was on the internet, but I didn't watch all of the numbers. It was just like, hey, watch this, and then just watch it with this outlook. Again, a lot of things that we look at with fresh eyes again, and just seeing that, it's just heartbreaking in media like that to literally just seeing. I think, is it like a Taxi that's like number 1 or something, and then the Taxi that she's in is number 1, and then that's it. And you can't write stuff.
This is the thing, is that it's building on emotions. Is that it's the build up to it. If it's built up well, like certain scenes, like we've all been talking about, or things that we've discussed, because there's that build up to it, and you have that connection to the character. When it hits home that they do something tragic, is you've got the experience and you grieve for them. Because it's well written in. If it's just like, oh, this is Fred, it's sort of like he's been in one episode, Fred's wife's died. You're like, I've got no connection to Fred.
I don't care.
No, I don't care.
There'll be a subreddit that likes Fred, though.
Yeah, but
no.
I don't know about you guys, but I find I get more emotional about the characters and the plot lines that are in sitcoms than stuff that are in more serious drama or films. So like you mentioned, obviously,
One Foot in the Grave.
Shameless. Obviously, there's 2 or 3 episodes of Scrubs that spring to mind for me. There's My Lunch and My Fallen Idol and My Screw Up. Both ones that affect Dr. Cox specifically. We're dealing with like his brother-in-law's death, and then the death of the 3 patients that he feels he's caused, and things like that. There's an episode, you probably all are aware of it, in Futurama, with Fry and his dog, and I feel more that they get to me more coming through a sitcom because you've got that whole it's going to be a comedy. They'll have the like humour and whatever.
Because it's not expected.
And then you've got that sucker punch, and I find that those scenes affect me more emotionally than probably what it would be if I was to watch, you know, like a proper historical drama or something like that. You know, most other people would find difficult to watch. I don't know. It's just one of those things for me. I get more emotional about it when it's come through a situation comedy than I would do anything else. Because I just find that they do it better, like I say, because they have the chance to build it up and they can lay the foundations, even if it's through a 30-minute episode. You can slowly build it up, and then you get that sucker punch at the end, or wherever it is, and that's what really gets you. It can be quite raw.
I suppose it's more concentrated. Scrubs, for say, what is it, 20, 22 minutes? They've got to pack the A story in and a B story. In a film, it could be, 90 minutes, 2 hours. You've got to sort of pad it out, stretch it. But if you're in a sitcom, you've got a short amount of time to cram it in. And that scene, I suppose that heightens it because it's undiluted. It's just pure, like that Scrubs episode. It's that one line, where do you think you are? Yeah. In the graveyard.
Because he thinks he's going to his kid's birthday party the whole time. Yeah. And it's not. It's actually Ben's funeral at the end of it.
That hits you harder than 2-hour drama, in my opinion.
But I'm probably going to be. Has any of you guys seen Inside Number 9 on my own?
I've watched a bit of it.
Yeah, so they were like 29-minute episodes, and they're all individual sort of things, but like Tales from the Unexpected. But they can be quite different. Sometimes it'll be funny. Sometimes they can be like horror. Sometimes they have twists and stuff like that. And they do that. They cram everything in to a 29-minute episode where no line of dialogue's wasted, no scene, no expression on someone's face. So because there's a couple of episodes that get me. One's called 12 Days of Christine. God, I'm
Sheridan
Smith.
That,
one of the best performances you've ever seen. It's probably one of the best 29 minutes of TV you'll probably see.
Yeah. Go watch it.
Honestly, I won't tell you what happens, but honestly, you'll just be like, wow, that's a punch in the gut. And there's another one called Bernie Clifton's Dressing Room, which is based. It sort of starts off with these guys who were sort of comedians in the sort of 70s, 80s sort of style, and they're going to do one last show, but there's sort of a twist to it to the end. But it just gets you, gets you. So sometimes you can have sort of like 20, like Scrubs, 22 minutes. Inside Number 9, 29 minutes of just like, oh my god, that done me. And you can watch a film for 2 hours and go, I kind of saw that come in or whatever.
I feel like sometimes you watch a film and you know that's going to happen. My missus got me to watch, I think it's called like A Nice Walk or something like that. It's by the same guy who did The Notebook. And like she put it on, she said, apparently it's really sad, and like watched it. I fell asleep on the floor because it got to this point. It was like, you know, this stereotypical I'm a horrible jock guy, and then there's the Christian religious girl, and then they get together and I don't want to hang with my friends anymore, I love you more than anything. And then I was like, she's going to die. And then they say she's got leukemia or something. I was like, I knew it. I knew it. I'm not sad because I know it was coming. But something like Scrubs or anything else that's like more comedy or doesn't really aim for the sadness, it does just catch you.
But on the flip side, like when you do know what's going to happen, like I'm going to throw a bit of culture in there. I went and saw Mice and Men at the theatre last night. I know, right. But once you've seen the film with Gary Sinise and John Malkovich and stuff like that, you know, if you read the book, which a lot of us did when we were a kid at school and stuff like that, you know what's going to happen. And I knew, like last night, you know what's going to happen at the end, and it still got me. I was still like, you know, I literally had to exhale a big load of breath because I was like, flip me, that really does get you at the end there. So, God, thinking about it, but you know, so it can work both ways. Is what I'm sort of saying. Like even when you know what's happening, if it's powerful enough, it will affect you emotionally.
Les Miserables. It's sort of like exactly the same. If you get a production of the theatre of Les Miserables and you go there and you know that the rebellion is going to fail, but you still have that.
You believe in them, don't you?
Yeah, you believe in them and you understand why they're fighting. And it is that because if it's done well, you have that connection with the character and you feel their death.
The way that it's done on stage as well is going to be different depending on what you say, what production is, because you're literally then looking at especially when it comes to like the directing world, their vision of it, and that's going to change each time. So what you saw on stage of Mice and Men would have been completely different to what it would have been.
That's it.
On the film.
Yeah, it was.
But the way that it's done, the way that they're then telling you that story, it's you're still going to sort of have the same emotions, but they're taking you to the journey of that on a completely different way to what it would have been previously. Each time it's different.
I can't watch To Kill a Mockingbird. It's an absolutely phenomenal film, and it goes into the culture and etc. But because of it was the book that I had at school, right? You know, sort of like it was drummed into you. We're going to read To Kill a Mockingbird, and this is one of the greatest books you will ever read. And I'm like, because of that resentment, I can't watch the film, and it is one of Gregory Peck's best films because it goes into topics that are uncomfortable to understand or uncomfortable to deal with, but I can't watch it because it's drummed into me. I've got this hatred of because it was made in. You know, you have to read this book. Can't stand it at all.
We're talking about sort of older films. It's a Wonderful Life always gets me, and I know it's like not Christmas anymore, but like honestly, that film is a sort of a tour de force. It didn't do that well at the time either.
No,
did it?
It bombed
Massively, and it kind of got showed in America on sort of free cable network TV, and then people started seeing it, and it wasn't even really a Christmas film, I don't think, but it's because it's snowing and stuff, and it has got Christmas in it a bit. Yeah. They sort of started showing it around Christmas time, and it became this sort of tour de force where people watch it every Christmas. But that's got some amazing performances in it, that film, and that's pretty, because that's the sort of thing where you can relate to the character. He's this guy, he can never get away from home, and because he's trying to help people out, his family, his community and stuff like that, and he thinks, oh, what would life be like if I wasn't here? And like, I'm sure that everyone can connect to that sort of thought from time to time, you know, and it's a powerful film. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend watching that. So.
I think the thing that I get with everyone here is that when we like films and series, we like to throw ourselves into it, and then you escape for a little bit when you're watching these things. So when you feel those emotions, that's why they're more real, you know, because you're putting yourself in their shoes, or you know, if you knew that person and the consequences it would have on you, if it's good, if it's bad, and whatever. So that's, I think, why we react so positively or negatively sometimes to these things, because we escape for, you know, an hour, 2 hours. That's one of the things that, with me having a cinema card, I like to go into the cinema, and I've escaped all of the stuff outside. So if anything's good or bad going on in my life, I can escape, watch this film, and 2 hours have gone, and then I can then go back to, you know, going back to my job or going to this, and that's what I love about films, TV, and stuff, and how it makes me feel with stuff like that. So, don't know if you guys are the same.
It's weird that you say that you do it to escape, but then the thing that makes the film experience good is the things that you bring into it with you. You know, like your emotions and your attachments to things. They are from outside, aren't they? So it's weird, really. It's like you're leaving stuff behind, but you're also taking it into the cinema with you. Because that's what, like, especially as a parent now, like, you do bring a lot, especially when you go and watch kids' films, like, you know, like, it's about, like, a family or something. You know, like, I was watching Mitchell's versus the Machines yesterday, and, like, that's based around a family, so you bring your experiences as a parent to that film. And, like, one of the dad's main storylines is that he couldn't do things in his life because he then had kids. So then, like, you, as a parent, bring your thoughts of that into it, and it makes you like empathise with that character.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we were discussing earlier about Up. Up is exactly the same. As I've been married, kids now, etc. Is that they show their entire life together, and Carl never opens the book because that's what their dreams were going to be. And he thinks that they've never achieved what they wanted. And then eventually he turns the page and he finds out that Ellie has filled this book with memories of things that they didn't achieve. You know, they didn't achieve going to the dream place and holiday, but they achieved so much more from different things. And it hurts you, it gets you in the heartstrings, because you understand how their family dynamic changed and how their commitments changed to each other.
That's an amazing thought, that films, depending on how you feel at the time when you watch it, depending on where you are when you got family, how you can go back to see it is a new film. That's the best way to put it. You can appreciate films differently depending where you are in your life.
So rewatch all the films you've
Yeah,
watched.
watch
Not
it.
I don't think I've got
JJ, good luck.
Go on.
JJ, good luck, bro. If you never see JJ in the podcast again, he's still doing his homework.
Still rewatching everything
That's it.
from 2000 to 2010.
Nice.
So we'll move on then. We've talked quite a bit now about films that affect us in a emotional way in terms of sadness and anger and things like that.
Yeah.
We'll move on to a bit more light-hearted films, sort of the things that you go-to films, the things that you just typically go to try and feel good, type thing.
I think if I want to, just be sometimes you just want to stick something on and just have a laugh and don't need to be too serious. My go-to is always the inbetweeners. I just stick it on because it's so like classic, stupid British kind of thing. Like, just Jay, I just love him. Like, the more I get older and I just watch it, I just find him hilarious. It's like business.
As you get older,
so many quotes on it.
as you
It's
get
just
older,
so
you
good.
just kind of realise how cringy he is. Like, when you were younger, you're like, I really want to beat him. He's so cool. And then you get older, you're like, no.
Yeah.
No.
But when you were like growing up, especially like it's probably like a British thing. So if there's any American viewers, then you probably don't get it all. But like you always had that friend that was Jay, like, completed it, mate. It's not out yet. Oh yeah, actually, they invited me down to the studio and I tested it and I completed it, mate.
I think the Americans do have a version of it. It's something that they bastardised.
Yeah, it
I
was
saw
not
it,
good.
yeah.
I think E4 had it over here, and they put it on at midnight because it was bad.
Well, they did Shameless over there, and it's like high rated, got awards and everything. And I tried watching it, I was like, this is awful.
It just doesn't have the same feel.
No,
does it?
Frank Gallagher is, it's a stereotypical British thing of like, the drunk dad that's on benefits and everything. And they tried to translate it over to American, and it's like, I don't know.
Shameless, the British version, obviously. No matter where you sort of grew up, there was always that kind of estate within the town or
Yeah.
that you lived in.
Yeah.
You were able to
Or you
sort
knew
of,
You
someone.
connect.
Yeah.
even if you didn't live there, you could relate to it because you knew someone that was from sort of like that background and whatnot.
Well, there was someone down the pub that was,
Yeah.
it was Frank Gallagher.
Yeah.
Whereas when the Americans did it, I only saw clips and bits and bobs of it, but it's just, it just does not feel the same at all. Because they move it to, is it like New York or something like that? They set it in and.
So I don't even know where to say because it just
Chicago
felt
or
so
something
alien.
like that, but it just did not feel right at all.
The American version was good when they wrote their own episodes. The episodes where they basically took our scripts and changed a few things, that's the ones that didn't really work for me. Because I've saw the first couple of series, and the best ones were the ones they came up with rather than just changing it around a bit.
I feel like they don't get our dry sense of humour. It's like, or I feel British people like have the jokes, and it's like, oh, you probably shouldn't say that. Like going back to Inbetweeners, there's one quote that I always use, and it's funny because me and my partner were driving to take my little boy to school, and there was this big like people carrier bus thing in the way, and Jade sat there, she's going, "Oh, what an idiot! What an arsehole! Oh," and then I went, "Babe, that's a disabled bus." It's literally, and I just said to her, and I went, "What inconsiderate arsehole!" And she's like, she literally didn't say anything for like 10 minutes after. She felt so bad.
That's the one with the theme park, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
It's like, "Oh, I'll sit next to him, but I won't like it because he's inconsiderate arseholes," and turned around, and it's just like the Downs kids.
I'm actually. They filmed a lot of the Inbetweeners where I originally grew up in London, so I recognise a lot of places. And I am actually one of the Northwood boys. You know, they talk about the Northwood boys.
Oh, yeah.
The little kid who kicks him and punches him in the balls when he's. That
was you. Just shave the beard.
But yeah, it does remind me a lot of when I was at school, like how people used to talk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone knows somebody like in between the ten. That's what made it so relatable.
Yeah, we had a briefcase wanker, didn't we?
Ben.
Yeah.
Ben
We don't know where he is, so if you do know, write him.
I've not seen him pretty much since we left sixth form. So yeah, good 12, 13 years.
Don't know if he's alive or
Don't know if
dead.
he's alive or
But
anything.
we have found your briefcase. So
Yeah.
No, I I think all those types of like comedy, you know, just like you said about it, just being British sometimes, and obviously being in the Midlands where we are, you know, plug, that's where we are again. But stuff like that, and even ones that come over from America and stuff that we watch and we take for granted sometimes, you know, even though a couple of them have finished, like The Big Bang Theory, talks about How I Met Your Mother, that are just easy to view and easy to watch because it's just bread and butter. They're just rolling out, and you. I remember you saying last time we were here, Lewis, that you watched one episode and then like you get started and then you have to like carry on watching even though you're wanting to like.
Oh yeah. I'm on to series 12 of Big Bang now.
You just can't stop watching them. And you don't realise how good they are, like how just because you've seen them so many times and it's just second nature now.
It's easy viewing as well.
Comfort viewing.
Yeah.
Well, after you talked about, I'm on season 3 of Scrubs now. It's just like watching it from the beginning. I'm like, God, can't just put it on. Another one.
I certainly find sitcoms, especially, are the easiest go-to viewing for me. But I've got a couple of films as well that you know, if I'm not wanting to watch a sitcom, so obviously, being a big Star Wars fan, I'll quite happily put one of them on and just have it in the background, apart from the sequel.
Not you, Ray.
The first 6, and maybe some of the TV shows I'll watch. Jurassic Park's a big one for me. I can just easily pop that on and just find myself rooting for the T-Rex the whole time.
I think for Jurassic Park as well is that it's aged so well.
So well.
Even for today's standards, you're like the CG. Well, it's animatronics with CGI adaptation, but it's phenomenally good, and you get that genuine feeling. Like you say, even now, I still vote for the T-Rex.
Yeah, it's the hero.
You want Rexy to win, and it is. I mean, like we were discussing off camera, is that there's bits of Jurassic Park that you're like, this is a bit dodgy when you read into it, but overall, you're like, dinosaurs! Yay! As a kid, I loved that. I'm wearing a flipping dinosaur jumper. I loved that.
I suppose it does kind of, because some younger kids do watch it and stuff, it does kind of introduce into like the ideas of like the ethics behind what they're doing in there as well. You know, like should you abuse like nature and things like that to like make money essentially.
Oh, we're doing it with the woolly mammoth in real life at the moment.
Are they?
Yeah, they're trying to bring the woolly mammoth back.
Are they?
I've heard something about that.
Not know that. That's mad.
Frozen one, isn't they? They're trying to extract DNA.
They've got the DNA from it. They are now trying to work out how to inseminate an elephant with it.
I don't know why you'd want a mammoth though. They died out for a reason.
I mean, that's some dangerous territory now. Is it going to be reptiles next? And then we're just living in Jurassic Park.
Well, they did the thing where they were basically reverse engineering chickens back into like a T-Rex, and they found the gene that makes a beak, and then they changed it so it was a snout, and then kind of gene edited it so it had an actual tail. So I mean, if you get to that point, just pluck the chicken and then spray paint it green or something, and there you go, you're sorted. Mini T-Rex. Imagine having a micro T-Rex in your living room. Just remember that.
I think he's going to be very pissed off because
I'm just going to say now, we are not going to go fund this so that the budgie in the background will become a mini T-Rex for the next episode.
It's halfway there. Back to the Future would be one of mine. Absolutely love that. Love the series. The music is brilliant. The whole film is just you can just whack it on and it just goes like that.
Yeah.
Martin McFly's brilliant. The Doc. You can almost quote it line for line, can't you?
You can. It's really good.
Great dialogue, great performances. You know, make it like a tree, get out of here, all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? You know where he says that. You can see that in your head straight away. And yeah, it's a great film. And it's like I say, you don't have to watch it all the way. You can be in the background. It's one of those ones where if it comes on TV, I'm like, why am I watching this? It's got advert breaks, but I'm still watching it anyway, sort of thing.
Yeah, you do. You think to yourself, I could just put the DVD version in, but I'm too lazy. I'm just going to sit and watch the advert.
So all 3 are on ITV2 back to back, and you end up watching them just in the, even if it's in the background, you send them on, aren't they?
Back to the Future trilogy has become a go-to film for ITV2 to just put on. Oh, we've got a 2.5 hour gap on this Saturday. Back to the Future, put it on. Well, we've got something else to follow. Make it don't matter. Whatever that is, move it along. We'll put the second one on, and the third one. They've just got a constant rotation of films that they always go to, and Back to the Future is one of them.
Film's part of your comfort watching and all. It's something that's got a definite ending. Like Friends, that's took off again on Netflix. You start episode 1, there's 10 series. you get
Light
pretty-
work, isn't it? You know.
yeah, you get to a pretty good end, and then people go back to the beginning and watch it again.
Yeah.
But it's like Scrubs, 8 series, forget 9.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Eight
There's
series.
only 8 series, there isn't 9.
People watch it, then go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just Back to the Future. 3 films. There's no spin-offs. You don't need to watch Disney Plus to understand the second film because there's a reference in that show that you need to understand. There's just in a straight line,
Definitive mid first,
There's an
start,
end.
middle, and yeah.
and you can go back to the beginning and watch again.
I think a lot of like these kind of ones like we're talking about happy, for me it tends to be serious because like we're saying comfort watching, you just stick it on. Like there's only maybe like 2-3 films that I'd actually go, oh, I'm going to stick that on. One for me that's weird is Interstellar. I don't know why. I think because it's quite kind of like a long film, you can stick it on, you know, like when you're going to bed or something. And it's just, I love space, so just having Interstellar and you know, it's an intellectual film, as you call it. Maybe it makes me feel smarter if I watch it. I watched Interstellar when I went to sleep last night, but that's one of those. I think I must have watched it like 12 times just because I put it on when I go to bed, watch half of it, fall asleep. Next day, go to where I was halfway through, put it on, fall asleep. But that's a comfort film for me.
What do you think of Interstellar, Dave?
I like Interstellar.
Is it an accurate film? As the scientist in the room.
It is fairly accurate. There is a lot that they did a lot of research into it to make it as accurate as possible. And what they go through in Interstellar, you do get that level of okay, they have actually spent time looking at it, thinking about it, etc. Some of the bits are obviously slightly more dramatised, but it's close to it's pretty much as close as you can get in film. To do
Wait,
it.
so you're saying that I can't like push books off of a bookshelf from like a different time in a weird, cool, floaty world?
Frankly, if you look through a telescope and then don't look through a telescope, you're time travelling.
Whoa.
Because you're seeing the light at slightly different speeds. And we're all time travelling at 1 second per second. But we are currently
You
observing...
look like your brains are splitting.
Oh dear.
But the observable universe is billions of years old. Right? The light that we're seeing from the sun left the sun 8 minutes ago. So there's travel, etc., going on for everything that we see. And all that we see, if we're going really into it, you're not actually seeing anything. What we're doing in this room here is it's just your brain picking up on situational things. The vibration of my voice is what your ears are hearing, and then your brain interprets that electrical signal and goes, "Oh, that's what he said." Your eyes, you actually see about a fraction of a second before your brain. Everything that we've seen is in the past.
Isn't that why we get deja vu sometimes?
Sometimes, yeah,
like,
because your brain has seen the image and processed it before subconsciously you've processed it before your conscious brain has realised what it is. So that's that kind of deja vu feeling of we had this before. Right.
How does that make you feel?
Mark looks pretty blown away.
I was absolutely convinced JJ was going to go, is that why you get deja vu sometimes? I was going to go, don't do this to me, don't do it to me.
You've usually got to buy drugs for this sort of feeling in your mind, but no.
Speaking of deja vu,
Yeah.
The Matrix is a film that I love watching.
Oh,
what?
Yeah.
Cut that
That
one.
blew my mind when I was like, what? How old was I? Like 12 or something?
Around 1999, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
before the millennium it came out. Yeah.
I was like convinced that like
The
world wasn't
simulation.
real. I was like, it's not real, is it? It's not real. Like it proper like threw me off. How it's a cool film, but like it made me think.
Did it affect how you ate steak?
Yeah.
I know, I can taste the steak.
Talking about the Matrix, some of the feel-good films like John Wick. I genuinely
Feel good?
love. Yeah,
I just ignore the first 10 minutes, the dog thing,
Yeah,
and I can't do it.
But it's like it's the same with sort of like Liam Neeson now that we've Taken, etc. And Keanu Reeves, I loved, like I say, I love Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. Though it's weird that they only did like 1.5 films and it kind of as a bit of a weird cliffhanger, But how Keanu Reeves has like transitioned into John Wick, and the first John Wick had a plot. The second and third ones, they have a plot, but it's just how many people
can we kill?
Yeah, how many people can we kill on screen? And you're rooting for him. All right,
he's a deadly assassin. He's dangerous. Like, he should be killed. But you're rooting for him. You're like, go on, John. Go on. Go on. Yeah.
You talk about plot armor. Like he's got
Oh,
the
he's
biggest
got plot
armor of all time. But you're literally seeing it round him. Like you're just like,
Yeah, but
"How
the way
hell's
that he
right?"
does things, and because it's Keanu Reeves, you're like, well, is he actually Neo? But he's just
Yeah.
in a different,
Yeah.
It's a different
yeah,
simulation.
different simulation. So what about the new Matrix film, the newest one?
What? No, there's only 2.5 films.
True.
I've never seen any of them.
Yeah.
I understand the cultural reference with the pills and stuff because it's 20 odd years. Never actually sat down and watched a Matrix film. All I know is Will Smith turned it down to do Wild Wild West.
Oh,
Well,
That
was
went
a
well for him. didn't
Terrific career move for him, wasn't it?
Yeah. He's got a music video coming out soon where he replicates the Matrix. He does the whole time bending thing with some firing bullets out.
Do you think he can
Quite
like?
relevant, isn't
Do
it?
you think he can reverse time and not slap?
Yeah. Oh dear. Did that make that made me feel?
He boosted what's his name's career though.
Oh yeah.
That's sort of like all of his shows became sellout shows after that slap.
Yeah. He does that gambling advert. Chris Rock, yeah. He's on a speedboat going down the Thames going about gambling.
Was like, I took a gamble, it didn't pay off.
He's eight.
And now I'm living on this boat.
Bet
It's
responsibly.
the BetMGM
Yeah.
one,
I
isn't
think
it?
it's 888 or something like that.
BetMGM. It's BetMGM that he does.
Oh nice.
Is that what yeah, it's just like of all the people in the world, when you think, oh, well, fair dues, take the money and run with it.
Oh yeah.
Like Bruce Willis before, everyone knew he was ill, and everyone was taking the piss about the poor, straight on demand films, and then he realised, oh, he's ill.
Yeah. Well, he had it in his contract, didn't he? It was like $1 million, like just flat. If you want him in the film, even for 10 minutes, it's $1 million, and that's why he was doing it because it was like
One
building
day's
this
filming.
plot.
So he'd be in like 2 scenes at the beginning, 2 scenes at the end, and they filmed it in a day, and then they just edit it in.
Wow.
You think, and you realise why. You think,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand now. I'm going to stop
Yeah.
making the joke.
Insert joke here.
It was still crap films, but at least he got paid for it.
Don't crap films that people that you really like. But it's a bit of a random one. Outcast, which is Nicolas Cage and Hayden Christensen.
Yes,
Yes!
Nicolas Cage.
Yes, right. But it's so bad, it's good. It's set is sort of like Nicolas Cage. Well, Hayden Christensen is in the Crusades. I can't remember the whole thing about Hayden Christensen, but he's like a Crusade knight, and he ends up in China. And then he also meets Nicolas Cage, who's a former Crusader knight who is in China. And then it's like this big kind of rebellion ring.
What
in
a
the background.
coincidence.
Yeah, it's like there's one bit where sort of like they jump forwards in time, and Nick Cage is supposed to have lost an eye, but he doesn't have an eye patch or anything. He just squints. It's just like, he ends up. It's like there's one scene where he's got 2 snakes wrapped around his wrists, and me and my wife we always joke about it. We're just like snake hands. He looks like a flipping dodgy pirate, but it's like it's beautiful. I love Nick Cage. Like same the Five Nights at Freddy's rip-off that came out just before the Five Nights at Freddy's. I love that film where he plays the silent protagonist who just cares about cleaning. Like it's.
It just kills a load of robots.
It's one of them films where you just like, there's no plot, but you're rooting for him. You
Enjoyed it as well, yeah.
It's fantastic.
Sometimes you need a mindless film like that's a feel good kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
just I've watched some films and if I've afterwards just gone, oh man, I've got a headache. Like there's so much to it. Like Tenet. I like the film,
my goodness,
but I was just like, oh my god, I'm going to think about this for ages. And then you go, you know what, I'm just going to stick a Nicolas Cage film on and like,
Comment.
yeah.
Lose my mind with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Face Off, stuff like
Face
that.
Off.
Brilliant. I
Oh,
love it.
Oh, Face
I love
Off is
it.
fantastic.
Probably
film.
put an Arnie film on for that. Stick a Schwarzenegger
It's
film.
not a
on it.
tumor.
Yeah.
I love it.
Or a rock film, can't go wrong with
Yeah,
a rock
you go.
film.
They're just
Jumanji or something like that.
not nothing that's like overly complicated plot wise. You know they're going to have a bit of slapstick violence in there. There's going to be some silly puns in it and whatnot whenever he kills a bad guy. And you just sit there and you go,
Don't have to
You
think.
just
don't have to think
Switch
about
off,
it. You
yeah.
just switch off and you just enjoying an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of The Rock or Schwarzenegger just being themselves in a ridiculous action situation.
beating up a foreigner or a CGI crocodile.
Your luggage.
Or Batman. It's basically the same film. It just switches your mind off. Takes your mind off bills and food shopping and picking kids up and shoelaces. It just turns your mind off.
Which minute you've been thinking about shoelaces?
It's not the best of films at all. But in terms of like a go-to one for The Rock, absolutely. I could quite happily just sit there and watch his version of Baywatch because it is just an hour and a half of him ripping the shit out of Zac Efron, which to me is just pure entertainment.
I love how Zac Efron got so ripped and everyone's like, whoa, look how in shape he is. And The Rock comes in and he's like
Natural.
that tall.
He's tiny against him.
You know,
And
like
you
when
put two of him side by side and he's still not meeting the width of The Rock's shoulders, is he?
I can just imagine Dwayne Johnson when the script got given him to him say, I really need to show Zac Efron how it's done, because they do that scene where like Dwayne Johnson's character, who's obviously already in the Baywatch, and Zac Efron's trying to get in there and prove it, and he's doing like the assault course thing, and I think they have to like carry a fridge or something, and he's just doing it like, and Zac Efron's really struggling to carry this fridge, and he's just literally just hand palming it or something to get it through. Just imagine just doing that, honestly. Well, another one for me that might be relevant for this year is Happy Gilmore.
Oh,
yes.
Yes.
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
The second one's
Doing
coming
the
out.
second one.
No, and just Shooter McGavin is just he's just going. He's just so good. Shooter. And it's just like, how did he blow that lead? How has he blown that?
And he had to play where the ball lies.
Yeah, I was like, oh my, like you just know that some tomfoolery is going to happen here, like where the ball lies, and Happy hits it and stuff. And obviously, I'm a big ice hockey fan, so there's loads of references with like the Bruins, which I like, and he's like training from like, yeah, you've got good technique. The skills are transferable, but it's obviously not as easy as like he makes it to be. And then it's relatable. I don't really like golf, but if you actually try and do what he does in the film, like it must be the hardest thing ever to do.
I've tried that his golf swing.
What, the running?
Many times.
Yeah.
It is not
Yeah.
as
Hard
easy
to
as
do.
it's a really
Because did he
difficult
actually do
thing
it in
to
real
do.
life? Was he able to do it, or is it just like CGI?
No,
I
no,
never
he
know.
would have done it, but it would have been multiple takes. I've seen
Yeah.
like people have done it on like social media and
Yeah.
whatnot. They film themselves doing it like driving ranges and whatnot. They take loads of attempts because obviously you've got to get the club to connect with the ball, but you've got to do that whilst you're running up and doing the whole.
The motion.
Because it's all in the hips type thing.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest thing to do. It's ridiculous, but.
So any golf pros, have you tried it?
But yeah, it's just, my favourite bit's just when it's the alligator and he comes back and his hand, he's got the wooden hand.
When
He's got the wind down, and what is going on?
The elbow in the
And even like when he takes his grandma to like that care home, and like how he sees her, and she looks like she's well looked after, and then he leaves, and she's like,
Ben Stiller.
You're in my house now.
Yeah,
you're in my house.
Yeah.
You will knit until your hands are sore, and it's just like, she's like
Oh, your hands are tied. Have you seen this? Is it Herbie's Haunted House or something?
oh, Ben Stiller.
Yeah, it's got Ben Stiller's
yeah.
character from that
that,
film. Yeah.
Yeah. But stuff like that, it's just funny stuff that could be really taken seriously and in a bad way, but you just know it's for the comedy. It's done in the right way and stuff. And what a film! Honestly.
So what's this about the second movie then?
It's coming out this year.
The second one this year.
Second
Why?
one. I don't know what he's going to
Netflix,
do.
I
It's on
imagine-
Netflix. They've got the rights to it. So.
Adam Sandler probably needs some
Is Adam
money.
Sandler
Yeah.
in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in it again, and Shooter's in it, but he's
He's
like
in
dead
it.
old. He's dead old.
Ben Stiller's in it.
You can get cameos from Shooter McGavin in his character, and he's like,
Oh yeah, it's
It's
on.
like,
Yeah.
"Hey Oliver, happy birthday from Shooter," and you're like, "Oh my goodness, man!"
You definitely need some money.
Yeah, come on, like the cameos are too expensive. Not that much.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to buy me a cameo,
Yeah.
you know what to do.
Hey, pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You're using a ship for breakfast?
Yeah.
No. Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of Adam Sandler films that kind of like these
Yeah.
comforty films. Like,
It's just like a cool dad for me, obviously. Sorry, guys, being a bit older than me.
Quite a lot of the Adam Sandler films were coming out as we were growing up. So,
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy was one of them. Wedding Singer. I enjoy the Wedding Singer. He's writing his song about his ex, and when he's just gets to this, somebody kill me, please. he's just sort of he's losing his mind. I'm gonna reap all the benefits. Like the creepy DJ guy that's his rival.
I quite like Grown Ups as well. It's not the best Adam Sandler
I
film.
think I've seen that one.
Have you not?
No.
It's got all his. It's one of them where it's like, oh, it's Adam Sandler with all his friends.
Right.
It's got I can't remember his name. Who does Paul Blart, Morgott,
Yeah.
Kevin something.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. Yeah, I know what you mean though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's like, I think, as it's like, you get older, that's cool to watch because it's like they're all meant to be like older dads that are going on this holiday together to this like little getaway place, and it is pretty funny.
The question is Steve Buscemi in it? It's not an Adam Sandler film if Steve Buscemi's not in it.
He must be in it, surely. It's got everyone. It's got everyone.
I wonder why The Hangover went as a movie when it came out, etc. Because it was that older blokes, last ditch hurrah, let's go out and have a stag do, and everyone was just kind of like, yeah, it's like the stag do from hell. And what happened? How did they get into this situation? You appreciate it because now as you get older, you kind of think you're like, yeah. My stag do wasn't that mental, and I'm glad it wasn't that mental.
Yeah, but then they did it 2 more times.
Yeah, they did 2 more times. Kind of like there's finding a good revenue stream, and then there's flogging a dead horse, and you kind of think, stop, guys, please stop.
Well, my go-to film is that Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, it's not high theatre and cinema, is it? But I enjoy it.
It's a very good Holmes. He plays the eccentricism of Holmes. Yeah. If you read the books by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, is that Holmes is a morphine addict.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. And all the stuff he's doing to the dog and stuff.
He definitely takes morphine and heroin. He's an addict.
Well, it's on his mantelpiece, isn't it? When you walk in, it's all there.
Yeah, like, he doesn't blatantly and sort of like Robert Downey Jr. plays that eccentric side of Holmes, and as we were talking about earlier, is you've got Basil Rathbone is like the characteristic genius deductee, and he plays that side of it. But Downey Jr. plays the oddball kind of Holmes, but you get that genuine feeling. The second one, where with what happens with Irene, you're like, I hate Moriarty for that. Genuinely, I hate the guy.
Sets him off, doesn't
it? Yeah. But the guy who plays Moriarty, I can't remember his name, but he plays Moriarty so well, you genuinely hate him because of that scene with what happens with Irene. It doesn't help. It just makes you get that hatred, and you want Holmes to win because of how he's done this, and he's played it behind the scenes. I think that's kind of like why I don't like the TV show of Sherlock.
But they came out at the same time, I remember.
Yeah,
and they were pitting each other against each other.
Yeah. Do you think if they came out like today, do you think it'd be more? Do you think people would go to it a lot more, or do you think it was a sign of its own time when it came out?
Which
the films.
Well, it was 2010, weren't it?
Yeah. I think the films are popular in their own right. I think, like you say, is that because they came out they were pitting against each other.
Yeah, for no reason, because they're completely different animals.
Yeah. There is talk of there being a third one. They've apparently started writing a script, but that's as far as it's got. So
it's because they're busy actors and all.
That's what
I mean, that's another thing I enjoy.
Disney has got hold of them both, so
the two Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, they work great together, and I don't know why they're not in different films together, because they work well together.
They do have such good chemistry.
Yeah,
between you do the whole scenes throughout that film is you do feel Watson's kind of like hatred towards Holmes at times, where he's like, "What are you doing?" But then Holmes just is like the second one with the scene in the train, where sort of like he pushes Watson's new wife out of a moving train. He's like, "Don't worry, she's fine." He's like, "You killed my wife!" Like, you feel for Watson. And he's like, Holmes is just so chill, and he's like, "Watson, I suggest you get down with me." Like, why? He's like, "Just trust me." Like, what are we doing? we're lying on the floor and I'm smoking. It's just the
'Cause he's-
nonchalance.
Because he's already planned ahead.
He
with
already
the guy with
knows
the
what's
machine
going to
gun.
happen.
That's the only thing in the film sometimes, that you want to feel sorry for him, but he's like not doing anything about it to get rid of him as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's keeping him, as a tenant there, and he's doing all this stuff. And my favourite thing, how many times he like kills the dog and then brings the dog back to life, and you just feel dead sorry for the dog. And like the older woman that's like looking after the house, and he's just shooting a gun to check the thing, and just seeing how mad he is. Even like when he's doing his experiments in his own room, and it's like, yeah, he's in his own environment, but how it actually works out for the rest of the world, if some of these crazy ideas that he's thinking about actually come to pass.
I think for me, linking onto this, one of my all-time favourite Disney films is Basil the Great Mouse Detective, because it is sort of like it's the mouse version, but they also get Basil Rathbone and the guy who plays Watson to be Holmes and Watson in it. But there's this level of they make a mouse Sherlock Holmes. And I love it. I love the whole story about that. And Vincent Price as the bad guy as Rattigan. You're like, flipping love him. Sorry, I killed the conversation.
No, that's all right. It seems like a bit of a...
No, I forgot. And I was just thinking, I forgot Vincent Price was in that. He is, isn't he?
Yeah,
It's like Edward Scissorhands. You forget he's in that.
Yeah. That's one of his last ever films, Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
What a film to finish on.
I didn't like it.
You don't like Edward Scissorhands?
No, I thought he murdered that kid. I think they should have locked him up rather than let He stabbed him to death. I don't care what anyone says. Premeditated. He had the weapon with him. Jury in the land to find him innocent.
But look at his innocent face.
I love the scene when he drinks the alcohol. It's like... I think everyone's had that. First time you've ever tasted alcohol or something strange that you've not drank before. That's the reaction I had when I first tried whiskey. Just...
Pints of pins.
Pints of pins. A mega pint.
Full pint of
That's a
neat
story
pins.
for a different time.
Oh. Never drank it since,
Nope.
Getting flashbacks to that. Oh, I can still taste it. Like aftershave.
You're getting a cold sweat now from it all.
Yeah, I'm just... Oh,
God. That's 45 minutes.
Well, I feel like Matt's got to bring up his one before we end, because you can't talk about feel-good films without Matt talking about the ultimate feel-good film, really.
Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Just like... I know it's like fiction and everything, but like it just like reaffirms like the power of human will, I suppose, that film. And, like everything that he goes through right from the start to the end. And then that's the first time I've cried at a film in happiness, I think. When he comes out at the end. I'm just like happy for him.
I think, like you say, is
and he
that
meets Red on the beach at the end.
Yeah, it's how he kind of goes through this wrongful imprisonment, but he still never breaks. His he's never broken despite what goes through it. And same as Red. Red's admittedly committed a crime, but he comes to realisation and terms with it, and he matures as an individual, and you get that appreciation of that he has genuinely changed. And when you get, like you say, that emotion, that last scene where he walks along the beach and he just gets to the boat and there's Andy, like it's that genuine moment of these blokes spent God knows how many years together, and it's a natural friendship. They are best friends because of what they've both been through.
Yeah.
But there's moments of little joy in it, in between the darkness, because obviously Andy has some really difficult time at the beginning and stuff like that. But it's that's why the film didn't do so well at the time, because people couldn't understand it through the trailer, could they? But when he plays the music, and he's going to get done for it. But that moment where
it's a moment of happiness for him,
reality, isn't it? Or when he gets some of the beers on the when he says he's to make the guys feel like they're not inside and that they can, that moment of life, isn't it?
Yeah. Even though these moments, they're going through a period of, like, obviously some of them are criminals. Like I say, Andy's the only one that's not actually guilty in there, but they're all going through this what would be horrific experience, just prison life, especially in the 30s,
40s
in America. Right. Let's face it, criminals at that point, they're not going to get treated like they do today. And they go through this, what would be horrific experience, just horrific.
Yeah.
Especially in 30s, 40s in America, let's face it, criminals at that point, they're not going to get treated like they do today. So then you get those little moments throughout the film, like you said, they've finished tiling the roof, they get the cold, chilled beers, the music when he's obviously playing in the warden's office, or just he gets his library.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's weird to have in a film because it is.
Yeah,
you'd imagine that in a series rather than in a film, but you get that thing, and then eventually they go,
okay,
here's your $100, whatever it is, or $200 and some books, and they go, oh, is that it? Then he goes, no, I'm going to write 2 letters a week. Do you know what I mean? And then
pockets of happiness for each of those characters through a film that is supposed to be rather harrowing for the characters, and then obviously at the very end, like Matt says, it pays off. That your 2 main characters get to the end, and they do pretty much get a happy ending.
Yeah,
which you probably wouldn't have thought when you 20 minutes in.
Yeah,
you think no way is this going to end happy.
Yeah, you definitely think one of them will probably die in prison from how this has been going, and like you say, it's that pure ending that just brings it all together nicely.
Especially Red, because he keeps on getting refused.
He gets knocked back every time he's parole board, doesn't he?
I suppose it's like real life, though, isn't it? You get, it's not great most of the time, but you get little pockets of happiness. Every little things kind of keep you remembering, like just having a couple of beers with mates or something. It's just a couple of hours that's nice and a break away from horrible things. You could be going through a breakup, or you lose your job or something, and you just have these little things. So I think that's, it's quite realistic. These horrible things happen, but just these 2 guys having a connection and keeping each other going through little things.
That's a very nice way to end things, isn't it, Jay? It's like us here, isn't it? Without the beer.
We hope you really enjoyed this first episode of the Fellowship, and we really enjoyed filming it, and we're looking forward to doing more in the future. Going forward, the faces might change a little bit, but we'll have to possibly bring in guest stars and things, hopefully, if people want to get involved. But the lineups will be changing slightly depending on what we're talking about. So if we're looking at, I don't know, say Doctor Who, it might be more Dave possibly, and like Oliver because they like Doctor Who more. Obviously Lewis because he's also into that. I'll just moderate that because I know nothing about Doctor Who. But yeah, but we really hope you enjoyed it. You got anything to say, Lewis?
Yeah, say going forward, we're going to try and bring in some new types of content as well. So we're going to hopefully get out a bit more, do some instant reactions and reviews to things that are coming out in the cinema, streaming services, theatre maybe. We have got some guys in the group that are quite into their gaming, so we're able to get more into the gaming side of things, anime. Still look at doing stuff about fan theories, film and TV news, and then as well possibly do some debates and group games, and any other things that we can come up with. Just try and expand the content that we're putting out for you guys. But that's everything for this week. Thanks very much for watching, and remember to like, comment and subscribe here with us at Midland Earth. Thanks very much.
Ciao.